Thank you, Jerome. Good morning. How is everybody? I am going to talk about happiness this morning. You know, for thousands of years, great, brilliant minds have written about it, orators have talked about it, yet it seems to be so elusive. We chase it, we try to buy it, we try to manipulate other people out of it. We all want to be happy, but for some reason, at times it's tough to get there. So this morning I'm going to share with you the secret to happiness. It's very, very simple. It takes 2 minutes. After that we could all go home, but I'm getting paid to speak 20 minutes, so I'm going to have to make up some stuff to go along. You know, the secret to happiness is we are happy when we get what we want. We are happy when something is happening in our life that we think should be happening. Isn't that right? It's just that simple. Now you might say, well, that's a very nice solution, Duke, but it doesn't solve the problems I have. It doesn't solve that which is causing my unhappiness. And no, it doesn't, but it is a first step. Knowing that what is happening is something I don't want, and I want something else to happen in my life. Now, let me give you an example of this, and it's about my cousin Ozzy. My cousin Ozzy likes to go to the horse races. When he goes to the horse races, he's happy because that's what he wants. When he bets on a horse and he wins, he's happy because that's what he wants. When he bets on a horse and he loses, he's not happy because that's what he doesn't want. Well, a while back, he's at the horse races, and lo and behold, there he saw Pastor Sandvig from Our Savior's Lutheran Church off in the distance. He saw Pastor Sandvig go down, walk up to horse number 7, put his hands on the horse's head, and bless it. Lo and behold, horse number 7 came in first. Then Ozzy saw him do that the second race. This time he went up to horse number 3, put his hands on his head, horse number 3 came in first. Well, Ozzy thought that perhaps the good pastor might have had some sort of divine intervention in the race. So when he saw him go up to horse number 9, put his hands on his head, he went and bet on horse number 9, and he won. Well, in the 4th race, he was convinced when he saw Pastor Sandvig put his hands on horse number 2, he not only bet all of his money on horse number 2, but he emptied the ATM card as much as he could and put that on horse number 2. Even though it was a long shot. So the race begins. They're going down the field. And here's horse number 2, lumbering along 50 yards behind every other horse. When the race was finished, horse number 2 barely crossed the line, and when it did, it collapsed. Cousin Ozzy was furious, not only because he lost money, but he thought Pastor Sandvig was a fraud. So he went to Pastor Sandvig and said, I saw you bless 3 horses and they all won. The last time you blessed the horse and it didn't win. What's the deal anyway? And Pastor Sandvig said, Ozzy, if you would come to church more often, you would know the difference between a blessing and last rites. Okay. So let's get back to happiness. What is it about happiness? It all narrows down to choices that we make. We choose different situations, different circumstances, different relationships, different places to live, different things to do. We choose things and they make us happy or they don't make us happy. And that is a very important point here. We always have a choice. If you're in a relationship that has gone bad, a relationship that somehow there's conflict in it and it doesn't serve you as a support system, you always have 3 choices. You can leave the relationship. You can stay with the relationship and live with it as it is, or you can do everything you can to change it. Always have 3 choices as a first step. If you're in a job that you don't like, you feel miserable getting up on Monday morning and going to work, you have 3 choices. You can leave the job, you can stay at it as it is, or you can do everything you can to change it. And sometimes when we do everything we can to change it, it doesn't necessarily mean going out into the world and moving things around and trying to prop things up. It might mean changing our thoughts, changing our perspective, our viewpoint on it. But things can always be changed to some degree where we can move on to that point where we feel miserable in it. So the question is, how can we increase our happiness? We're all interested in that. We'd like to be happy more and sad less. And the happiness I talk about isn't necessarily a state of hilarity, a laugh out loud happiness, but rather it's just kind of a composure. It's a contentedness. It's just feeling, in general, feeling good and feeling upbeat or uplifted. So how can we increase that? Well, many of you here I know, and I know you well. There's other people here that I've never met. But what I'm about to say is the truth for you. You're multidimensional. And what I mean by that is that you live in different realities. There are different planes of reality that you exist in, that we all exist in. The first plane of reality is that of the physical. We're all physical beings. We all have a body. We all engage in physical delights. We eat and we drink and we smell and we taste and we feel and we hear different things. When the body feels good, we're happy. When the body doesn't feel good, we're not happy. It's pretty simple. If we have an achy, cold feeling, if we got the flu or a headache or any sort of physical malady, we don't feel good. We're not happy. So the first plane of reality that we live in is that of the physical. It is the body. The second plane of reality is the psychological. And on the psychological level, we take on a personality, we take on characteristics, we take on eccentricities, we take on all sorts of different things that make us unique. There's nobody in the world that's exactly like you. You're an individual. Nobody sees life exactly the way you do because your life is tinted by everything that's happened to you up to this point in time. You identify with yourself as a name and as the personality. So the first plane of reality that we exist on is the physical, the body. The second plane of reality that we exist on is the psychological, where we become a somebody. So we're a body, now we're a somebody. I'm Duke, you're John, you're Mary, you're Harris. The third plane of reality that we live on is the social interaction plane of reality, and that's where we connect to others. We become engaged with different people and different things. And the primary way we do this is through our roles. We all have roles that we play, whether you're a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, a husband and wife, a committed partner for life. It doesn't make any difference. We all play our roles. It might be a role at the job place. It might be a friend to somebody. We play our roles, and through those roles we're able to interact, and we need that so desperately. That's one of the primary needs that we have, is to interact, to feel connected, to feel relevant, to feel like we're a part of the world going around us. So those are the three planes of reality: the body, the somebody, and what the somebody does. Now, if any one of those areas is out of sync, so to speak, if we don't have a role that we feel is important, we're not going to be happy in that particular area of our life. If we're not happy with who we are, if we have feelings of inferiority complex, if we have shame or guilt that we're carrying forward, we're not happy with the person that we are, and we're not going to have a general line of happiness about us. And as I said before, where the body isn't feeling good, we're not going to be happy as well. So all that being said, it seems like it'd be very, very easy. We just have to get our ducks in a row. We have to get feeling good physically, feeling good mentally, and feeling good about our interaction with other people. But there's something that's even more important, and I have found an incredible study this week that points this out, and that is the environment that we live in. Now, when I talk about the environment, I'm not talking about the ecological environment, you know, the air, the sun, the wind, the breeze, the trees, and all of that stuff. But I'm talking about the personal environment that we live in. And when I talk about our personal environment, that is where we're at any given time, that is what we're doing at any given time, and that is who we're with at any given time. Right now, your environment is Unity Temple. You are here, you're with all these other people, and you are doing something that is uplifting, I would hope, or that inspirational to you. That is your environment. You leave here, you might meet friends, you might go to a restaurant, that is your environment. But environment is extremely important in how we feel, and it affects our happiness to the greatest degree of anything else. There was an experiment done with a rat, and they were studying its capacity to addiction to drugs. And the researchers took this rat, they put it in an empty cage, they put 2 bottles on each side of the cage. One bottle had pure water in it, the other bottle had water laced with heroin. Well, they noticed that the rat went to the pure water, drank it, then it went to the heroin water, drank it, and then stayed at the heroin water and continued to drink it and drink it and drink it. Became addicted to it naturally, overdosed, and died. So the grand conclusion was heroin's addictive, and if you do too much of it, you're going to die. They could have saved the money. But one brilliant mind said, wait a minute, what if we changed the rat environment? So they took the rat and they put it in a nice cage. It was the equivalent of a rat park, if you can imagine that. It had a little mirror on the side of the cage. It had a little ball it could push around. It had a wheel it could run in. It had other rats that it could play with. It's a beautiful environment. And it had the same 2 bottles, 1 bottle of pure water, 1 bottle of water laced with heroin. And they discovered that 95% of the rats in that cage, in that better environment, preferred the plain water over the laced water. And of the 5% that went to the heroin water, none of them overdosed. It indicated that the environment had everything to do with its addiction. Now, they later went on to discover that whether it's an alcoholic or a drug addict, when they begin to slide down into that dark, murky place where alcoholism takes over their life or drug addiction takes over their life, usually what comes with that is isolation. They start to back away from other people, from social interactions. They stay home by themselves, they drink or they do drugs. And they discovered that we still need that social interaction, we still need to bond, but the alcoholic and the drug addict bond with whatever it is they're addicted to. And I can relate to this. Many, many years ago, I was a drug addict, and I realized I had a family, I had kids, I'd moved out of the house, and I realized that I was becoming more and more alone. Somebody would say, hey, let's go out after work and have a beer. No, I really can't, because I wanted to go home by myself and do my drug. And I became more and more isolated, and the only thing that I had to bond to, the only thing that I really resonated with, was that which gave me the fix. And that is true of most alcoholics and most drug addicts. So when the experiment with the rats came to surface, another brilliant mind in Portugal, Spain, said, let's take a good look at this for our country. At that time, Portugal had more drug addicts than any other country in Europe, probably any other country in the world. It was rampant. They were spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year to help solve these drug problems with law enforcement, prisons to put the people in, all sorts of treatment, rehab places, trying to get these things shored up. But the one thing they also did is the same thing that we do in America when somebody was busted for drug addiction or alcoholism or whatever. They were shamed. They were made to feel guilty. They were put in prison if it was bad enough, which is a horrible environment. And they do everything to make the people not feel good about themselves. So this brilliant mind over in Portugal says, let's take all the money that we're spending to rehab these drug people and to sober up these alcoholics, and let's spend it on them. Let's take it and find them a nice place to live that is furnished well and that is clean and that's in a good area of town. Then let's get them a job. Let's train them and let's get them a job, and we'll tell the employer we will pay their salary for the first year, so you have no expense with this employee. They got them involved in healthy social interaction activities. Some were for recreational purposes, some were for public service. And the addiction rate in Portugal dropped by 50% in a very short period of time, and it's still dropping, and they're not spending as much money as they did when they were trying to rehab them. Now, I talk about drug addicts and alcoholics in this regard, but it's just as true for us because our environment has an incredible effect on our happiness, on our peace of mind, on our sense of well-being. Basically, if you're residing in an environment in which you don't feel valued, you don't feel respected, you don't feel supported for who you are, and you don't feel loved, you're not going to be happy. You can live in a mansion on the hill that's fully furnished with the nicest furniture and has the most opulent embellishments, but in that home, if you don't feel valued, if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel supported as who you are and you don't feel loved, you're not going to be happy. In the same respect, you can live in a shanty down by the river's edge with a table and a chair. No plumbing, no electricity. But within that small little habitat, if you feel valued, if you feel respected, if you feel supported as who you are and you feel loved, you're going to be as happy as can be. See, our environment has everything to do with the life that we live in regards to the contentness or the overall sense of well-being that we experience. Now, we always say, and it's true to a certain extent, that nobody can make us happy, and that happiness is an inside job, and that we need to do it ourselves, and we can be happy wherever we're at, but I don't believe that's true. I don't believe when I'm in a negative environment that doesn't value me or disrespects me in any way, I don't believe that I can be happy anyway. But what I can do is I can choose the environment that I choose to live my life in. I can choose the relationships that I want to interact with. I can choose what I do and where I do it and make sure that is a healthy, supportive environment. So as we move into meditation, I want you to think for just a moment about your entire life, the friends that you have, the family you have, the places where you hang out, or the place that you live. And just think, is there an environment that when I move into it, I can really feel myself starting to sink down? It's like I'm not happy, I don't want to be here. And so the only decision that you have to make is to not be there, or to not interact in that relationship, or to not do those things that make you feel not well. So we'll now move into meditation. I invite you to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and slowly exhale. And think for a moment how blessed you are. Think for a moment of the great luxury that we are afforded, which is called freedom and safety. And let our compassion and our love and our understanding flow out to all the people in the world who have had that safety and that freedom disrupted, who have lost family members, who have become crippled and maimed as a result of an explosion. And just know that the world has the potential, the world has the capacity to rise above all of this fighting. We can join together as one. We'll now move into meditation. Once again, I ask you to take a deep breath. And as you slowly exhale, feel every part of your body become relaxed. Any tension in the back of your neck or in your forehead, just feel it released. Your life consists of time, and time is like money. You get to spend it however you choose. Your time is valuable, just as valuable as anybody else's. Your time has a purpose. It has meaning. And life is meant to be inspirational. It's meant to be recreational. Even though the path is not always easy to walk, problems and challenges threaten our peace of mind. Relationships disrupt our peace and our calm. It is just life. That's the way life is. But we can rise above the turbulence. We can move beyond the fear and the anxiety. We can stay centered in the fact that each and every one of us has everything we need to rise and move beyond anything that disrupts our peace of mind and our sense of well-being. You have that. It's within you. It's your spirit, it's your soul. And if you turn to it, you will find it. So peace be the way. Peace with the process. Peace with all things. Now slowly bring yourself back. And do so with a slight smile on your face. And we go forward to live this day with confidence, with positive expectation, and a sense of peace with all things. And so it is.
Build from the human fabric signs of how your kingdom thrives. Oh, how your loving spirit changes lives by changing lives. Something beautiful, something good. All my confusion you understood when all I had to offer was brokenness and strife. You